In this Baldur's Gate Tactica, we're turning our attention to the Inquisitor. And certainly we all have our favorite character classes, and there's a lot of ways to approach the game. An example would be utilizing classes that are powerful, but maybe not playing an optimized build. I've often played a sorcerer, focusing on no damage dealing, but focusing on charms and buffs and mental dominations. But if we look at the meta, if we say, hey, we're going to approach the game from kind of like a tactical miniature skirmish game, which Baldur's Gate, absolutely, the role-playing, the storylines, the quests, but at its core, it is a fighting game. It's a game of stats, and it's a game of being able to break through certain challenges in the encounters and the monsters that you face to win. There's a lot of combat. And what keeps it very interesting, of course, is pulling from the various monsters in the Dungeons & Dragons ecosystem along with the character classes. If we approach it from the perspective of pure meta, the Inquisitor has the potential, I say has the potential, to be the most powerful character class in the game. That's what we're going to approach. That's what I'm going to kind of support. And then, as always, I'll turn it over to you guys in the comments. I often feel like the Inquisitor is what the Wizard Slayer should have been, and then maybe call the Inquisitor something else, or give the Inquisitor stat line something else. The Inquisitor begins, it's a subclass of the Paladin kit. So right away, before we get into the special abilities, and it's these special abilities layered with the fact that you essentially have a potential frontline fighter that make it so deadly. So that synergy is absolutely important, but we need to build that base. In Baldur's Gate, you have frontline fighters and secondary fighters. Then you've got support classes and then magic classes. Frontline fighters deal a lot of damage. They've got a lot of hit points. They're there. It's a little bit more complex than this, but they're there to basically run up and tank and consistently put out damage turn after turn after turn. Classic example, the fighter. Or if we look at the barbarian or the berserker, a little more nuanced with the rage bursts, but same idea. Then you have second tier fighters. They're a little bit more surgical. Examples here, and this is one of my favorite character classes, vanilla, but also the kits, a monk. A monk can hit somewhat hard, has some unique abilities, but certainly does not have the armor class, despite what the game would lead you to believe otherwise, and certain ways to buff it, does not have the strike ability in terms of raw, consistent damage output. You do have more base attacks overall. The monk is not a frontline fighter. Monk is very, very powerful as the game levels up. All the character classes are. But the monk, given its speed, I mean, the monk could tank, but the monk, given its speed, is better suited to deal with threats that you need to take out quickly, but don't necessarily want to commit your frontline fighters. So we have this kind of like tier 1, tier 2. And usually you don't see things that are a crossover unless you get into multi-classing and dual classing, where you could have a support character like a thief, or you could have a spellcasting character, wizard/magic user, combined with a tier 1 front rank fighter. The Inquisitor, the Paladin type build, that class and subclass, it's pretty tanky. You have access to a lot of gear. You've got access to good armor class. You've got access to a decent, respectable hit point pool. Depending, of course, you don't have the full grand mastery and mastery of multiple weapons like a fighter type class, but you have enough. It's strong at its base on its own. Now, once we layer over this with the Inquisitor, you have two abilities that are the most powerful abilities in the game. And one is extremely, I'm being careful here. I'm processing in my mind. I don't want to give away any spoilers whatsoever. And I'm doing that not only with this vlog, but all of my Baldur's Gate vlogs, because I want you to discover the game for yourself. So much of the game is the storyline, the discovery, playing different character classes. But we can talk about this foundation and things to be aware of so you can explore different options. In the beginning, Dispel Magic and True Sight. let's just jump into that. At first glance, you look at this kit compared to some of the other kits, and you're like, where's the super clickies? Where's like the list of 5, 6, 7, 8 bonuses we get? As they level up, where do I gain more and more bonuses, more and more abilities, more and more class stuff? Well, these are the two most powerful aspects of the game. Dispel magic is going to let you hit and literally dispel magic on a target. It's going to target effects. It's going to target gear. It is going to target that creature. Now, there are behind the scenes calculations in terms of effectiveness, but right away to be able to cast this out unhindered, usually we only see this in the domain of the wizard or an arcane class. And then you have the challenge in playing that class where in the moment, again, Baldur's Gate being a combat-based game, you have other things that you need to cast. You have other things that you need to be doing in addition to if you're going to leverage that spell and use that spell, not to mention a spell slot and other aspects. Inquisitor just blasts this thing out, and you gain enough as you go, as you level up, you gain more uses of it. This is powerful also. Dispel magic is one of the more powerful spell stripping aspects of the game. Early on, if we're going to look at BG1, then move into the mid chapter, then move into BG2 and to Throne. In BG1, it's useful. It's nice to have. There are a couple of encounters that it makes things much, much easier. There are some encounters also that you can utilize it. I won't say it's necessary, but it's nice to have. It's solid. But once you move into Siege and once you move into BG2, Dispel Magic is very potent. Dispel Magic is very powerful. There are a lot more uses of it than not using it. And again, the clicky scale, and you're going to go up. Mind you, this is on a base of being an effective fighter. Also, depending on which area you go, your ball powers, like that is awesome also with the clickies that it's adding. Now we get into True Sight, one of the secondary most powerful spells in the game. True Sight is going to allow you just to strip off illusions. Now, BG1, one or two places where that is useful and very, very nice to have. Magic in BG1 is artificially limited, meaning the game caps at an experience level. Some of the other mages that break with the background and have some other abilities, they've limited the spells. Magic is powerful. It's a little bit of a pain when you're facing it, but it's manageable. There are some places where True Sight is useful. You move into the mid game and you move into BG2, mages become a lot more powerful. Not only by boosting their spell levels and what they have access to, but if we look at the game engine itself, the DNA, the genesis behind powering it, BG2 assumes like you've already played through the first game. You've done the tutorial. You've done the baby cakes. Like you're good. So magic in BG2 is sequenced and a lot more powerful, where these mages are busting out mad illusion, mad defenses. As you move on, the ability to copy mages and have a copy of yourself casting spells to be able to navigate through that, to bust out True Sight on a paladin warrior type class character with a hit point pool, with the magic items that you can utilize depending on which build you want to go in. That's powerful. That is extremely powerful. And in Baldur's Gate 1, the monsters that you fight, you're primarily going to use this stuff against mages. But BG2, and as you expand out, there are other monsters in the game that work as mages, that have areas where Dispel Magic and True Sight are going to be powerful. And to have that clicky, that activates massive. I mean, just a massive, so many uses. We get into the third ability, which I think a lot of players look as a sidebar, the ability to be immune to hold and charm. And that's nice. That's really, really nice. Not only just from the perspective if you're playing a no reload type game, but there are charm and hold spells that will get cast in BG1 and BG2 that have a good chance of messing you up. I mean, we've all played the game, or maybe you're jumping into the game and you're held and you're just getting hit every turn, or you got the little stars going over your head and your characters are running all around and the circle turns from white to yellow, then it turns red and someone attacks you, then it's back to yellow and it's running off the board. Like, it's nice on your main tune, on the main character, to be able to not have to worry about a lot of that. Especially if there's a dual combo where you can strip and be attacking one, and then there's another mage or monster that has those abilities and it's dropping those bombs on you and you're just ignoring it. So it's not a game changer, but it's nice to have that immunity. It also helps in certain situations. I was about to name a couple of items, but we're going to hold those back. The ability to be immune to things in Baldur's Gate, in the advanced Dungeons & Dragons rule set, you can gain that by items. You can gain that through equipping magic items and utilizing magic items. But with the exceptions of potions and maybe scrolls, if you can use it, it's a finite system. It's a finite system. I can only put so many helmets on. I can only equip, so many belts or cloaks and things like that. So it's nice, these character classes that have abilities to resist taking the control of your character away and not having to expend a slot. That frees up. That's the power of the Inquisitor and some of these other classes that are immune to certain things, because you don't have to worry about it. It's a free, persistent ability that actually amplifies the magic items that you can now utilize because you're not concerned about it. Likewise, sometimes as you play through and you become more familiar, you say, okay, look, I'm familiar with the game. There's a couple of places where I might get held and it could be a problem, but I'll just deal with it. Because again, the spell has to go off. Maybe you preemptive strike, you're invisible, you backstab, you do stuff to stop that ability. So certainly as you gain knowledge in the system and making it through the plays, you can kind of navigate that. But it's nice. It's really nice having that. So in the comments, Inquisitor, very, very powerful. The synergy of two very, very powerful anti-magic, anti-arcane abilities on the chassis of a frontline fighter. This is what the... Can there be like an edit? Can I edit out the Inquisitor's name and just put in Wizard Slayer? I feel like this is what the Wizard Slayer really, really, really wanted to be.